This lesson is on equations of circles. The standard equation of a circle is simply based on the distance formula. In this case, we have a generic circle with the very exciting center, HK, radius R, and I picked a point on the circle, which I'm going to call XY. To find the equation of the circle, we're actually going to find how long the radius is. To do that, we're going to use the distance formula. That's how we find distances in the coordinate plane. So in this case, our distance, which we normally write as d, is the radius, so we'll call it r. And r is going to be the square root of, as I do things, I call it the change in x squared plus the change in y squared. And we take the square root of that. Well, in this case, the change in x is going to be x minus h squared plus the change in y minus k squared. And because this square root makes things so ugly, I'm going to square both sides, and you'll get the equation on the next page. Okay, again, once both sides are squared, the r becomes r squared, and what we had underneath the square root, underneath the radicand, is no longer under the radicand. So this is the standard equation of a circle. You need to memorize this. As is, you need to know it very well, with no hesitation. This works when the center of the circle is HK, the radius of the circle is R, and XY can be any point on the circle. Let's do some examples. It says write an equation for the circle. I can go ahead and write this without even looking at what's the information they give me. Every time they say write an equation for a circle, I can write that much right there without even thinking. Okay, well, the center is always HK and the radius is R. I guess I could even write that if I wanted to. So H is the number that I subtract from X. So H is 3. K is the number I subtract from Y, in this case, negative 3. And R is the number that I square at the end. You're probably going to clean this up a little bit. You do not expand it. Please do not expand it. Y minus negative 3, we'll write Y plus 3, and 6 squared is 36. Okay. What about this circle? It's very similar. X minus the H, what's H? It's negative 12. X minus negative 12, X plus 12. Y minus K, what's K? Negative 1. Y minus negative 1 is the same thing as Y plus 1 equals the radius squared. The radius is 8, 8 squared is 64. Okay, they're trying to be a little bit tricky here. If the diameter is 20, the radius is 10. But very much the same way. X minus, what's the H? H is 0. X minus 0 is just X. So I'm just going to write X squared plus Y minus, what's the K? 5 squared equals R squared. Well, that's 10 squared, 100. Done. Okay, a little bit more difficult here. It says it has a diameter of 10. Its centers in the first quadrant. The lines y equals negative 3 and x equals negative 1 are tangent to the circle. Tangent means they just touch it one time. So I'm going to draw a coordinate plane so I can help visualize this. Y equals negative 3. That is this line right here. Y equals negative 3. And the line x equals negative 1. It's a vertical line. Are both tangent to the circle, and its center is in quadrant 1. Well, its center is going to be about right here, we'll say. Okay. The diameter is 10, so that means the radius is going to be half of 10, which is 5. We have to find, so we've got the radius. If we want to write an equation, we need the radius. Check. We need to know the center of the circle, HK. Okay, well, let's see. This right here is negative 3. And if the radius is 5, I'm going to go up 5 floors. Negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. This was negative 1, and if the radius is 5, I'm going to move 5 to the right. Negative 1 plus 5 is positive 4. So the center is 4, 2. The radius is 5. I can write the equation quite easily. And 5 squared is 25. That's all there is to it. A circle has a diameter with the endpoints 2, negative 2, and negative 2, 2. Okay, well, we need to find the radius and the center of the circle. The center is going to be very easy because if these are endpoints of the diameter, their midpoint is the center of the circle. The average of 2 and negative 2, I'm going to add them together, divide by 2. 0 divided by 2 is 0. And again, the average of negative 2 and 2 is 0. Okay, so our center of our circle is 0. We need to find the radius. Well, the radius is going to be the distance between one of these points and the center of the circle. I'm going to go with these two right here. And the radius is going to be the square root of change in x. Well, our x's are 2 apart, plus the change in y. They're 2 apart, squared. So the radius is the square root of 4 plus 4, the square root of 8. Do not approximate this. Do not simplify this, because you're about to see what we're going to do. 4 is the square root of 8. Okay, let's write this equation. X minus what's h? 0. That's just going to be x squared. Y minus what? 0. Y minus 0 is y. Okay. Equals r squared. Well, the square root of 8 squared is 8. Done. Okay, a couple of graphs. By looking at this, I should be able to see that the center is, what do I subtract from x? 2. What do I subtract from y? Negative 3. And what's the square root of 4? 2. The radius is 2. Okay, so I'm going to plot the center, 2, negative 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There's the center. And I know the radius is 2, so I can go up 2, that's the top of the circle. Down 2, that's the bottom of the circle. Left 2, that's the left side, and right 2 is the right of the circle. Connect those, I've made my circle. Okay, center again. What did I subtract from x? 3. What did I subtract from y? Nothing. What's the square root of 16? 4. 3, 0. I can go 4 up, 4 left, 4 down, 4 right. Okay, you don't have to do a perfect job with the circle, but at least mark the sides and the bottom and the top clearly along with the center.